Okay, this is for your diagnostic test from district. This is your review. So this is what we're going to work on. Get all this stuff out of the way. Okay, so first things first, it says perform the indicated operation. So really, y'all, we're just simplifying here. First things first, we need to get rid of the numbers or letters in front of the parentheses. So we're going to distribute. A times 2a is just 2a squared. And a times negative 4 is just negative 4a. Now negative 6 times a is negative 6a. And negative 6 times 9 is negative 54. Okay? If you notice, these middle two terms are like terms. This has no like term and this has no like term. So I'm just going to bring it down to a squared. Negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. Don't forget to put that a minus 54. Okay, so let's look at that next one. Y'all, I want you to realize this one has a plus sign in the middle of the parentheses. Anytime you have a plus, y'all, that means just combine. Okay, combine like terms. You don't really need the parentheses. So 3x plus 2x is 5x. And 6 minus 6 is actually 0. So 5x is your answer. Okay. So now it says solve for x. So if you notice there's an equal sign on these, which means you can actually solve them and not just simplify. But you're still going to start by simplifying, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and distribute what I need to distribute. So 2 times 5x is 10x. 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3 equals, now I want you to realize I'm only distributing this negative 2, and you have to distribute first. You cannot do 5 minus 2. So 5, and then that gives me negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x, and negative 2 times positive 3 is negative 6. So now we have to find our like terms. Okay. Sorry, these are all new pins. Okay, so we have 10x. Negative 6x. So I'm going to look at one side of the equal sign at a time. Okay, 10x minus 6x is going to be 4x, and then 8 plus 3 is positive 11 equals, these two are like terms, and I'm going to bring that negative 4x, and 5 minus 6 is negative 1. So I always like to move my smallest x first. So that negative 4x is my smallest x. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. Or that cancels. And I'm also going to subtract 11 from both sides. And that cancels. So I end up getting 8x equals negative 12 divided by 8 divided by 8. X equals 4 goes into 12, 4 goes into 8, 4 goes into 12, negative 3 times over 2. Okay, sorry that one got away from me a little bit. Okay, so let's look at number 4. Okay, so again, we're just going to distribute here. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Now here, I want you to realize the only thing touching the parentheses is the negative, not the 11. So do not distribute the 11. So that's going to be minus 3x minus 5. Okay, so knowing that, I'm going to combine like terms. Here I have 11 minus 5, so I have 6x minus 12 equals 11 minus 5 is 6 minus 3x. So again, I like to move my smallest x first, so plus 3x plus 3x. And I'm going to add 12 also. And that gives me 9x equals 12, 18. Therefore, x equals 2, because you'll divide both sides by 9, and x equals 2. Okay, on number 5, we have some ugly fractions. So we need to find our common denominator, our least common denominator, to be able to cancel all of the fractions. So I want you to realize that we have 8, 6, and 3. Well, 3 can turn into 6, but 6 can't turn into 8. So really, 8 can turn into 16. 8 can also turn into 24. I'll look at my calculator, which works for all of them. So we are going to multiply to make the denominators 24. So 8 times 3, okay, 6 times 4, and 3 times 8. Okay, so 3 times 3, that gives me 9x over 24 minus 4 over 24 equals negative 15x over 24 minus 16 over 24. So when the denominators match, you can cancel them. And we just get 9x minus 4 equals negative 15x minus 16. The reason you can cancel them is because really you multiply the whole thing by 24, and multiplication cancels division, and therefore they all cancel. Okay, so here I'm going to add 15x, and I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and I get 9, 24. Yes. So 24x, I'm going to bring it over here. 24x equals negative 16 plus 4, which equals negative 12. Divide by 24, divide by 24, and we get x equals negative 1/2. Okay, looking at this one, really we can make all the denominators 7, because technically these have a denominator of 1. So times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7, and I get 3x over 7 plus 14 over 7 equals negative 4x over 7 minus 35 over 7. That cancels all the denominators, because again, if we multiply by 7, they all cancel, and we get 3x plus 14 equals negative 4x minus 35. I'm going to add 4x to both sides, and I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides, and I get 7x equals negative 49. Okay, so then we'll divide both sides by 7, and we get x equals negative 49 divided by 7 is 7, negative 7. Now, if you look at number 7, it says solve for L. This is perimeter equals 2 lengths plus 2 widths. So if you were given the perimeter and you were given the width, this is how you would solve for your length. Okay, so we can actually divide by 2 first. Okay, and this gives us P over 2 equals, well, these both cancel, L plus W minus W minus W, and we get P over 2 minus W equals L. Here we're going to solve for W. Well, this is length times width times height for volume. Well, how do you get rid of multiplication? You just divide. So we're going to divide by LH, and we get W equals volume over length times height. Don't let those confuse you just because they're letters. They're actually easier. You treat them just as if they were numbers. Okay, solve the following. So here's where we kind of get into stuff that we haven't done in a while. Okay, so on this one, we're going to simplify as much as we can. We're going to treat it just like an equation, even though it has our less than or equal to. So this gives me 5x minus 20, bring down my minus 1. Okay, so this is going to be negative 21. So I'm going to add 7x to both sides and add 21 to both sides. And that gives me 12x is less than or equal to 24. Divide by 12, divide by 12, and I get x is less than or equal to 2. Now, if I had to graph that, here is 2. X is less than or equal to. Less goes to the left, equal to gets a bracket. So we had to write it in that form. It would be negative infinity to 2. So really all of these are your answers. Now, I want you to remember that OR means it can satisfy one or the other, while AND means it has to satisfy both. Okay, so knowing that, we have to solve both of these and plot them both on a number line. So 3x minus 4 is less than 2, so we're going to add 4 to both sides. I get 3x is less than 6, divide by 3, divide by 3, x is less than 2. Here we're going to add x to both sides and add 6 to both sides. And we get 9 is less than 3x, divide both sides by 3, and we get 3 is less than x. Now, if you don't like it in this form, you can flip it, but you have to flip it all the way. It still has to eat the x and point at the 3. So x is greater than 3. So if we graph this, we have a 2 on the number line and a 3 on the number line. If x is less than 2, it goes that way, and it's not equal to, so it's a parentheses. And x is greater than 3. Now remember, this is an OR problem, so remember it can be negative infinity to 2 or 3 to infinity. All of that are part of the answer. Now, anytime you have an absolute value, I want you to remember you write it once exact, and the other time it equals the opposite, and then you solve both. So minus 1, 3x equals 1, divide by 3, divide by 3, x equals a third. Minus 1, 3x equals negative 3, divide by 3, divide by 3, x equals negative 1. So the way you would write this is in fancy brackets, smaller, comma, bigger. Now the next one is an inequality. So again, you solve it like an equation, but you're going to graph it and stuff. So I want you to realize, though, 2x minus 7 is greater than or equal to 5. We wrote it once exact. And then remember, 2x minus 7, flip opposite. Okay? Now we solve. So plus 7, 2x is greater than or equal to 12. Divide by 2, x is greater than or equal to 6. Plus 7, 2x is less than or equal to 2. Divide by 2, x is less than or equal to 1. Now, I don't know if you remember, but you have less than or equal to or less than, and those are and, because less than, or you have greater than or equal to, and great or. Okay, so those are things to remember. So this is a great or problem. So when I graph it, it only has to satisfy one or the other. So I have 1 and 6. X is greater than or equal to 6. X is less than or equal to 1. So it would be negative infinity to 1 or 6 to infinity. Equations are so much easier. Okay? Write an equation or expression to represent each situation. So it says write an equation only. 4 times the sum of a number and 6. So I want you to realize it's saying 4 times. So 4 multiplied by the sum of a number and 6. So the sum of a number, we don't know what number, and 6 is, which means equals, the same as, is the same as, equals, same thing. 5 less than, so 5 less than is minus 5, twice the number we don't know. So 2x minus 5. Okay. Now this one says write an equation only. A pitcher was filled with 2 quarts of water. So we're starting with 2 quarts of water. A hole in the bottom allows to drip out at a rate of, so we know that's, oh, hold on. We know that it's dripping out, which means taking away, subtracting. Sorry about that. Okay, so, hold on, Sadie, hold on. Okay, sorry about that again. Okay, so we started with 2 liters, and it's leaking out, dripping out. We're losing, we're taking away 0.1 liters per hour. Remember, per tells you where to put your X. Write an equation that best represents W, the amount of water left in the pitcher, in quarts after X hours. So that equals W. Okay, write the equation of a line that passes through 6, -3, and is parallel to the graph of y equals -2/3. Okay, so we know parallel means same slope. So we know our equation is going to be y equals -2/3 x, because this is my slope, plus we don't know our y-intercept. Okay, however, we do know 6 and -3. This is x, this is y. So y is -3 equals -2/3 times 6 plus b. Okay, well, -2/3 times 6, y'all, if you need to use your calculator. Okay, so all I have is my calculator on my phone. So I know that -2/3 times 6 is -4. So I know that I have -3 equals -4 plus b. Well, if I add 4 to both sides, I realize that b equals -3 plus 4, which is +1. So my final equation is y equals -2/3 x plus 1. So looking at the next one, it says write the equation in slope-intercept form, which is what we just did. It didn't tell us, so we picked slope-intercept. Okay, write the equation in slope-intercept form of a line that passes through these 2 points. Well, first things first, we have to figure out what that slope is. So if you remember, slope is change in y over change in x. Okay, so I'm going to label x1, y1, x2, y2. And so y2 is -4 minus y1 is 2 over x2 is 1 minus x1 is negative 3. Two negatives makes a positive, so this becomes negative 6 over 4, which simplifies to negative 3 over 2. So we know that this is our slope, and it says write the equation in form of the line that passes through these points, okay? So I know that I'm going to have y equals negative 3 over 2x plus, I don't know my y-intercept, my b. But I do know that both of these points go into there, so I can pick one. I'll pick this one. I don't know why. Okay, and I'm going to label it. So negative 4 equals where did I lose myself? Oh, negative 3 over 2 times 1 plus b. So I'm going to subtract. Anything times 1 is itself. So I'm going to add 3 over 2 to both sides. So I have negative 4 plus 3 over 2 equals b. Now I need this over 2, so this would be 8 over 2. 8 would be b equals negative 5 over 2. So my equation is going to be y equals negative 3 over 2x minus 5 over 2. Okay. So it says find the slope and the x and y intercepts of this. So I want you to remember that when it's in standard form, okay, slope is opposite of a over b. So that gives me negative 3 over negative 7, which is just positive 3 over 7. So that's my slope. Now to find my intercepts, remember you can do the cover-up method. So if I cover up, so when you do the cover-up method, to find the x-intercept, you're going to cover up y, because remember, for your x-axis, y is 0. So when we cover that up, we divide both sides by 3. So 42 divided by 3, if you type it in your calculator, is 14. 42 divided by 3 is 14. So I know my x-intercept is 14, 0, because remember, it's where y is 0. Now my y-intercept is where x is 0, so I'm going to go ahead and put an x there, and that means this would be 0. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 7. 42 divided by negative 7 is negative 6. So this is my y-intercept. Okay, now it says, which of the following is not a solution to this equation? Y'all, I would do this in the calculator 100%. So this is x, this is y. Okay, so I am going to plug it in. So 3 times 8 minus 8 times negative 3 should equal 48. So then in your calculator, y'all, don't even do it. You would do 3 times 8 minus 8. Dang it, why do I? 8 times negative 3. And does it equal 48? It does equal 48, so this one does. And remember, we're looking for one is not a solution. So that is a solution. Okay? So again, I'm just going to 3 times negative 3 minus 8 times 8 equals 73. So this is not a solution, because 3 times negative 3 minus 8 times 8 equals 72, negative 73. So it is not a solution. Okay, so here 3 times 0 minus 8 times 6 equals 3 times 0 minus 8 times 6, not 3, is negative 48. And I want you to realize this is positive 48. So this is not a solution, because I want you to pay attention. It says choose all that apply. So then we have 3 times negative 8 minus 8 times negative 9. That is a huge number. That is not a solution. Negative 1, 7, 2, 8. And then lastly, 3 times 16 minus 8 times 0 equals, I don't know what it equals. 3 times 16 minus 8 times 0 does equal 48, so that is a solution. So those three are not a solution. Okay, here we're talking about domain and range. I'm going to do all of these in the same color. Okay, domain is all possible x values, while range is all possible y values. So for this, there's only 3 points in this set, so it's going to be, all of these are actually going to be discrete, which is a list of numbers, okay? So domain is a list of x's, -3, 1. Now remember, you don't repeat them. And my range is a list of y values, 4, 5, 6, so they're already in order for me. So there's my domain and range there. Here, I want you to remember these are always written x on the left, y on the right. So domain is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Range is written 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now the graphs are a little different. Domain is your x value, so I'm going to be looking only at these numbers. Do not look at these numbers, only these, okay? So this dot is at -3, -2, 1, 3, 5. Okay, now range is your y value, so you're not going to look at these numbers anymore. You're only going to look at these numbers. And I always start at the lowest, farthest left, work right, lowest, work up, because that keeps it in order. Okay, so this is 3, 4, and all of those are at a height of 5, so I just write 5 once, and I'm done. Almost done. Okay, solve the system of equations, y'all. There's a couple different ways to do this, but I want you to realize this one is set up for substitution because this is by itself and this is the substitute. So remember, we'd have that and we'd write the one that doesn't have the substitute and the one that does. Okay, and you're going to replace the x with -2y because if they're equal, that means they're the same thing. They're the substitute. Now, if you substituted incorrectly, you should only have one letter left, and I only have y's, therefore I did it correctly. So 6 times -2y is -12y minus 3y equals 5. That gives me -15y equals 5. Oop. Divide by -15, divide by -15, and y equals, that's going to be a fraction. It's going to be negative. 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 15 3. So -1/3. So I know this is an x comma y answer, and y is -1/3. So x equals -2 times -1/3. And remember, when you multiply, you just multiply tops and bottoms, so this is over 1. And x equals +2 over 3. So here is my point. Now remember, you can check these by plugging it in and doing that literally in your calculator. Oop. If only I knew my password. Sorry, I can minimize this. I think my kids are calm. Okay, so we have 6 times 2/3 minus 3 times -1/3. And that should equal 5, and it did, so I did it right. Okay. The other one we just solved, so that one should be right as well. Now this one is set up not so much for substitution. I have both in standard form, so this is where you do big addition or linear combination. Okay, I called it big addition, it's technically a linear combination. So 4 can't turn into 7, 3 can't turn into 5. This is already negative, this is already positive. I know 3 and 5 can both turn into 15, so that's what I'm going to do. This is going to multiply by 5, this is going to multiply by 3. I'm trying to cancel my y's, by the way. Okay, just because 4 and 7 don't ring a bell for me to pick a number right away, but I know 3 and 5 are 15 right away. So that gives me 20x minus 15y equals 35. This gives me 21x plus 15y equals 6. Big addition, because we set it up like elementary math. This gives me 41x. That cancels out, and this gives me 41. Divide by 41, divide by 41, and I get x equals 1. Okay, halfway done, because I know my answer is going to be an x comma y, and I know x is 1. Does it matter which one I pick? Nope. So I'm just going to pick the first one. 4 times x minus 3 times y equals 7. Well, that's just 4, so I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And I get negative 3y equals 3. Divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, and I get y equals negative 1. Now again, check these in your calculator. So you can do 4 times 1 minus 3 times negative 1 should equal 7, and it did. 7 times 1 plus 5 times negative 1 should equal 2, and it did, so we did it correctly. I mean, I know I have like the TI-83, and in class y'all don't have those, but it's the same thing. Okay, so here's graphing inequalities. I know it's been a while. There's 2 ways to do this. You can solve for y, which is what I'm going to do just because this is a simpler one. Minus x, and then I have to divide everything by negative 2. When you divide by a negative, you have to flip your symbol. So I have y, negative 3, 2 negatives makes a positive 1/2 x. So I know that I'm going to start at negative 3, that's my y-intercept. And my slope is rise 1, run 1, 2, rise 1, run 1, 2. Okay, and it's going to be a dashed line because there's no equal to. And y is greater, and something's greater than you shade above. So this is a dashed line, and we shaded above the line. Now you can also do a test point. 0, 0 is the easiest to plug in, and I always plug it into the original. 0 minus 0, because 2 times 0 is 0, is less than 6. 0 is less than 6, so that's true. That means we shaded on the correct side. Okay, now this other one, x is greater than or equal to 3. Well, x is 3 here. Okay, and I want you to realize x is a vertical line. It is solid. I'm glad I did that. Because this is vertical, undefined x equals equation. I know it's an inequality. And x is greater than 3. Well, 6 is greater than 3. 0 is not greater than 3, so we would have to shade on the right side. Okay. So, last but not least, graph the following. Okay, so here we have to solve for x, so add 2, and we get 3 is less than or equal to 3x, divide by 3, divide by 3. 1 is less than or equal to x. Now remember, if you want to flip it, the symbol still has to be eating the x and pointing at the 1. So these are equal, okay? And so we're going to add 3, and that gives me negative 10 is greater than or equal to 5x, divide by 5, divide by 5. Negative 2 is greater than or equal to x. Remember, if I'm going to flip it, x still has to point at the x and eat the negative 2. Okay, so when I graph this, x is greater than or equal to 1 would be that way. X is less than or equal to negative 2 would be that way. Well, and means it has to satisfy both, but it cannot be less than 2 and greater than 1 at the same time, so there is no solution. Okay, if y'all have any questions, make sure you're asking.